What's the dumbest thing you ever got in trouble for at school? I've got two things. I sang happy birthday with a whole bunch of my friends to someone at lunch and we were to split up, because it was inappropriate. Someone kicked my chair and I fell and I got a detention while they didn't get anything. That second one speaks to me. In second grade, one had a bully take a chunk of concrete and bust my knee wide open with it. I went to the ER and he got off scot-free. Yep, punched in the face on the first day of school in 5th grade. Detention, cause I must have done something to deserve it. Schools are so good at enforcing the laziness principle, I swear. I got yelled at for blowing my nose for too long. I got kicked out of math class for hiccuping. Not because it was disturbing anyone, but because the teacher said I was faking it for attention. I used to get hiccups a lot when I was a teenager, and most of the people in my class didn't even notice when it happened anymore. It was uncomfortable and embarrassing, but didn't really distract anyone for more than 30 seconds. Haha, same. It was after break and I was recovering from pneumonia, so I was an endless snot machine. I stood there blowing my nose for a good minute or two until the teacher told me to get out of the room if I was going to keep distracting the class for attention. In the same year I learned to write. I got in trouble for showing my teacher I could write upside down while not looking. I was super proud of it for some reason, but I guess I was not taking my writing seriously. Leonardo da Vinci would like to have a word with you. Not quite school, but a school function. I almost got kicked out of prom for being drunk, simply because I didn't want to dance. I was sitting at the table watching everyone else's stuff and 3 staff members dragged me outside to ask me how much I had to drink that day. Meanwhile, there's girls who obviously had been drinking on the dance floor not being bothered. You'd think that people who are drunk rather dance. Depends how drunk they are, in my experience. My dad had a "you can't stay home sick from school unless you're extremely sick," mainly because he worked from home and didn't like being bothered, so unless I had a fever of over 103 and or was throwing up, I went to school. And to be honest, until I got my driver's license I had nothing to do otherwise, so I had very little reason to skip. So one day my freshman year in high school, I'm sick. I can't eat because I'm queasy, but I haven't thrown up at all, and I didn't have a fever, so off to school I go. I get to 3rd class and I realize that I'm going to toss my cookies. I'm in the middle of science class and we're supposed to be doing some quiet activity sheet, so I raise my hand to ask to use the bathroom. Monsieur, the teacher is a hardest and says that I should have gone during break between class. I said to her, "No really, I'm about to vomit." She infers that I'm lying and that I need to get back to work on my sheet. So I walked up to her, handed her the completed activity sheet, and threw up on her lap. She calls security and tells them I intentionally assaulted her with vomit. I was suspended for 2 days and my parents had to threaten legal action against the school district to get the suspension reversed. Turns out I had the norovirus. Assaulted with throw up. How would that even work? Can people force themselves to vomit on command? One time in primary school, I went into school with a weird pain in my side. It felt like a muscle stitch, so I didn't think much of it, assuming it would get better after a few minutes or so. Flash forward about an hour, and we're all sat in assembly. I'm almost doubled over in pain cause it hurts to breathe, and some kid next to me keeps talking to me. As I try and tell him to stop, I get singled out by the teacher for disturbing the assembly, and so I have to stand up, almost in tears from the pain, and walk out of the assembly to sit outside while everyone watches. Flash forward about another 30 minutes and I'm lying on the floor of the headmistress's office, waiting for an ambulance to come and pick me up so I can be taken to hospital and later diagnosed with swine flu. I had that in college. I was in bed for 11 days and lost 25 pounds. I had it over Thanksgiving break too. Sucked. I got well enough just in time to start studying for finals after break. Was sick and asked to go to the bathroom. Monsieur, teacher said no. I vomited in her trash can. She tried to get me expelled. I can still hear my dad laughing in the principal's office. Funny, I had a teacher tell us, if we had to, don't even ask and just pick up her trash can and try to puke in the hallway. I should have went for broke and puked on her desk. Back when I was in HS, my school banned salt, so I literally had to smuggle salt to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Kids were also selling it. It was ridiculous. I never got in trouble, but others did. I went to boarding school FYI. Illegal salt deals happening under the stairs. In primary school we weren't allowed to talk during lunch. Go figure why, but people who did had to go stand in the corner until the others were finished. I had to go too. In middle school we got yelled at if we got too loud in the cafeteria. There's like 1,000 people in the room, monsieur. How the can you police that? My school had this gigantic traffic light on one of the walls. Got a week's worth of detention once because someone spread a rumor that another girl and I were having in the bathroom between classes. Teacher whose class I'd supposedly left backed me up that I hadn't left class while I was supposedly getting it on. As far as anyone knew, I was straight. I didn't really know the girl I'd allegedly hooked up with. What I actually got detention for was telling the principal to that I didn't think it was any of his business when he started asking about my sexual history. Well that's none of your god business, now is it? I was in pre-K and my teacher took our class to the bathroom, monsieur. It's important to note that every door looked exactly the same and I was 3 or 4. I was getting some water and when I looked up my entire class had just walked off without me. So I toddled down the hall and opened the door I thought was my class. Spoiler, it wasn't. The teacher of that class gave me back to my teacher and I got put in timeout. Yes, I got put in timeout because my teacher left me at the bathroom, monsieur. Totally your teacher's fault for not doing a head count before walking back. That's like the first rule for working in childcare. My mate was meant to get into trouble over something I did. I told the teacher I did it. She extended his for some reason. I never got one for it. Could you explain what happened? When I was like 6, there was a broken gutter on the playground leaking rainwater and my friend and I thought we looked cool with damp brushed back hair and absolutely soaked our heads under it. We got yelled at cause we'll catch a cold, but they made us go stand at the wall still outside for the rest of lunch. Yeah, no, instead of sending us to dry our hair. This admin was threatening to call my mom because I was standing out in the rain, just enjoying the feeling. She said she was good friends with my mom and had her on speed dial. This was at school. My mom is a teacher at another school and likely would not have been able to answer. It was supposedly because I'd be cold when I got back inside, but I knew that was the consequence and I was willing to deal with it. I just like rain. Like, let me enjoy life. I got yelled at for not saying good morning back to another teacher. Ugh, these power tripping teachers. I had one of those as the guidance counselor. He did all except sign off on class schedules. Well, my dad died when I was a sophomore, and he decided that I was too grouchy for him to allow me to have the classes I wanted unless I smiled at him every time I saw him in the hallway. Grieving wasn't an excuse to be disrespectful, apparently. Even though some of the times he claimed I ignored him were ones where my head was down and I was crying quietly and not looking at anyone. We were reading a Shakespeare play in HS English at a private school. The teacher asked if anyone knew what a line meant, where a character is talking about a pen as if it were a. When she asked, whole class said, and I said, wang. I got a detention for using inappropriate language because I didn't use the clinical term monsieur. Wang. Pay attention. Sorry sir, I was looking out the window at a long, smooth thing that looks like a giant. It looks like a giant. Johnson, what are you looking at? I started school left-handed. That was bad. I felt like the worst person in the world all through kindergarten and first grade because I kept messing up using my left hand to write, eat, ECT. I had in recess detention at least twice a week for it. This was also back in the late 80s when it was acceptable for teachers to hit children. Humours. D. I hope the devil diddles you daily with his left hand covered in barbed wire when you're rotting in. We had to sculpt a clay bust, then glaze and fire it. I made mine a black man. I had to go explain to the principal why I made mine black and a letter went home. I'm white. No black kids went to the school. This was 5th grade. I have no idea why it was an issue and neither did did my family. I was a kid of divorce. Spent summers dad in a big city, came back to the rural south for school. One fall, I returned with an earring. Anyway, I was called to the principal's office and grilled over the meaning of an earring. Some suspected the agenda, others believed it was gang affiliation. I was like, it's jewelry. You though. One time I got sent to the nurse for farting twice in math class. This was in 7th grade. What was the nurse supposed to do about it? Ice packs. In 2nd grade I got yelled at by my teacher for helping a kid who didn't understand the lesson after he was done speaking. The kid had already asked for help and he ignored him, and I was already done, so I decided to help him, then got punished and yelled at for doing so. Go back to your seat. I'm sorry, but I'm too busy trying to do your job, lol. In 4th grade one went to go pee. There were 2 or 3 other girls in there being complete idiots. They were yelling, being obnoxious. They were by the sinks. All I wanted to do was wash my hands. But then the teacher sent another girl down to see where they were, since they had been gone for a long time. We all got sent to the principal even though I wasn't even doing anything. It was my first time being sent to the principal, so I thought I was gonna die. Plagiarize, monsieur. I didn't use the correct MLA format 2 years before we learned about it, and was chewed out as if I had claimed I wrote the Magna Carta. Fighting. A tiny kid tried to punch me, and I held him at arm's length by the shoulder like a cartoon so he couldn't connect. In front of everybody. I've told this story before, but a friend of mine got yelled at for missing class to get scheduled chemo treatments. He died a few months later. I swear MLA is just a way to knock points off a paper. I have never ever seen anyone do it correctly. When I actually did the homework and wrote a paper, which was rare, I used a website that did it all for me and just copy-pasted it into my paper. Never had an issue. I got a letter sent home and yelled at and humiliated in front of the entire class because I climbed on top of a pile of snow. Whoa there, slow your roll, Evel Knievel. Do you understand the seriousness of what you have done? I got written up for putting my bookmark between my glasses and my face during silent reading time. In 3rd grade, I was in 4th grade and a big crack of lighting came down right outside the window. I screamed, like really screamed. I got sent to the principal because apparently that wasn't a mature reaction, and got detention. So, what's the mature reaction to sudden, primal fear? Should have flipped the desk instead. I dropped a pencil during a test. Teacher got mad when I picked it up and I was suspended for the day.